The train hissed as it slowed to a stop, steam curling into the cold morning air like breath from a tired giant. Clara Whitmore clutched her small suitcase with numb fingers, her heart pounding louder than the iron wheels beneath her boots. She had crossed 3 states with nothing but a photograph, a letter, and a promise of marriage waiting for her at the end of the line. The letter had been polite, carefully written, filled with practical words about a house, a steady life, and the need for a wife. It hadn't spoken of love, but Clara hadn't expected love. She had expected safety, a place to belong. When she stepped onto the wooden platform, the town of Pine Hollow greeted her with curious stares. It was a rough-edged place carved out of forest and sweat, where men smelled of pine resin and smoke, and women carried strength in their backs and arms. Clara felt their eyes weigh her, measure her, judge her before she had even spoken a word. She smoothed her coat over her full hips, suddenly wishing she could make herself smaller, quieter, easier to accept. A man stood apart from the others, holding a folded piece of paper with her name written stiffly across it. Edwin Harper. He looked just as he had in the photograph, thin, sharp-featured, his expression already tight with disappointment as his eyes traveled over her. His smile never reached his eyes. "You're Clara?" he asked, as though hoping for a different answer. "Yes," she said softly, forcing a polite smile. His jaw clenched. He cleared his throat and glanced at her suitcase, then back at her body, lingering a moment too long. "You didn't mention you were, well, bigger." Heat rushed to her face. "I described myself honestly," she replied, her voice steady despite the sting. Edwin sighed, as if burdened by an inconvenience. "I need a wife who can keep up with farm work. Someone sturdy but, not like this. I'm sorry. This won't work." The words struck harder than the winter air. Around them, whispers rose and fell like wind through dry leaves. Clara's hands trembled, but she refused to cry. She had endured worse than rejection. Still, the humiliation burned deep. "I understand," she said, though her throat ached. Edwin handed her a few bills, not meeting her eyes. "For the trouble." Then he turned away, his decision final. Clara stood alone on the platform as the crowd dispersed, her future dissolving before her eyes. She had no money to return home, no home waiting even if she could. For a moment, she considered sitting right there and letting the cold swallow her whole. That was when a shadow fell across the platform. "Excuse me, miss." She looked up to see a man built like the trees that surrounded the town, broad shoulders, thick arms, a beard dusted with sawdust and snow. His coat was worn, his boots scarred, but his eyes were warm and steady, holding no judgment. "I couldn't help overhearing," he said carefully. "Name's Samuel Reed." Clara nodded, wary but polite. "Clara." He scratched his beard, clearly uncomfortable. "If you don't have a place to stay, my cabin's got an extra room. Ain't fancy. Just offering." Every sensible instinct warned her to be cautious, but something in his voice felt safe. Honest. She searched his face for mockery or pity and found neither. Only quiet concern. "Thank you," she said after a moment. "I'd appreciate that." Samuel's cabin sat at the edge of the forest, where the scent of pine was thick and the silence deep. Inside, it was warm and clean, the kind of place shaped by routine and care. He brewed coffee while she sat near the fire, her hands finally thawing. "You don't have to stay long," he said. "Just till you figure things out." Days turned into weeks. Clara cooked, mended, and helped where she could, though. Samuel never asked her to prove her worth. He treated her presence as something natural, welcome. In the evenings, they talked. About books she loved, about the forests he worked in, about the loneliness they both carried quietly. Samuel noticed things others never had. The way she sang softly while washing dishes. The strength in her arms when she lifted heavy pots. The warmth she brought into every corner of the cabin. To him, her curves were not flaws to be tolerated but proof of comfort, resilience, and life. One evening, as snow fell thick outside, he spoke the truth he had been holding back. "Clara, I know you came here for someone else. But if you'd consider staying, not out of need, but because you want to, I'd be honored." Tears filled her eyes, not from pain this time, but from being truly seen. "You don't want me to be different?" she asked. He shook his head. "I want you exactly as you are." They married in spring, beneath towering pines and open sky. There were no whispers then, only smiles of understanding as the town slowly realized what Samuel had known from the start. Clara had not been rejected because she was unworthy. She had simply been waiting for the man who could recognize her as his perfect match.